Welcome to Level 1 Restoration Behind the Scenes. We have here today easily the most famous car that we've ever had here in our shop. Very exciting. Worked on obtaining this car over the summer of 2024. We're gonna probably, we don't know for sure when, how long it's gonna take us to restore this car, because we're really gonna try to do everything exactly right. And so this is obviously the 55 Chevy from American Graffiti. It's the actual car. It was also in a lot of the scenes in two-lane Blacktop. So whenever they were racing out on the street and there was outside of the car driving in two-lane Blacktop, this was the car. And in American Graffiti, it was everything except the rollover scene at the end. So this car now belongs to a customer of mine, Phil Mitchell. We got it from a guy out of West Texas. Wonderful guy, and his son had this car, and they wanted to do exactly what we're going to do with it. They just never quite got there. They did a few things to it, but basically, here at Level 1, we really love historic pieces, and that goes hand in hand with Jeff here. Jeff is quite a historian and a movie buff and just a car crazy, knowledgeable guy. So he, more than me, but he and I have been soaking up information all that we can. We've gotten together with, out at the Muscle Car and Corvette Nationals with Walt Bailey and Richard Ruth, the original builder of this car when it was in two-lane Blacktop. And so anyway, we're gonna set out on this journey and we're gonna bring you guys along with it. And Jeff, what kind of things have you learned about this since we've had it?
Wow. Well, it did start out from Rich Ruth as an original 150 two-door sedan. He built the two-lane Blacktop car as he would have built his own race car, and that's what he was building. He was forced to sell it because he was having a kid and the movie crew came along. So the two-lane Blacktop car is exactly what Rich Ruth would have built for himself. He didn't want it in primer though, he had it in color, but that's what he was after. That's what he was building, was his own hot rod.
So I guess they, someone from the movie company came, approached him because he was known in the Southern California.
He was known as a fabricator and a racer. So they got wind of him, came to him and said, hey, we want to build a car. He showed them around how the system worked, how the race car world worked. And when they said, build us a car, they basically gave him carte blanche, and this is what he built. Well,
so they literally test drove in one of his cars out street racing around Los Angeles a little bit.
Yes, but once he got done with this, then he took the guys from the movie out and showed them exactly how it was done.
And I guess they literally took it to the drag strip, and this car ran 1090 at I think 127 or 28 miles an hour.
Yes,
so
basically a street car.
Right.
It was still a functioning street car.
Yeah. So we're talking fiberglass one tilt front end, fiberglass doors. They got it as light as they could.
Got as light as they could. Rich Ruth laid up the fiberglass doors himself. There were none to purchase, so he made them himself. The deck lid is fiberglass. It used to be one-sided. Now it's double-sided, but we'll get to that.
Okay.
But that was a Rich Ruth product, I believe, as well. He bought the front clip, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm wrong on any of this, people will let me know.
Sure, we need to know, because we're going to try to stay as close to historically accurate as possible.
And if anybody has anything, please let us know.
So on that, there's a lot of different information out there. Some of it's pretty accurate, some of it's misinformation. If it came from Walt Bailey, it's going to be really good.
It's gospel.
Yep, absolutely. He's a wonderful researcher and just an amazing guy. But so this car had an L88 427 engine. So basically it was an over-the-counter crate engine.
Motor.
Yep.
All the cars had crate motors. This one was an L88. The camera car that's now restored as the two-lane Blacktop car had an LS6 in it. Both those cars were 4-speeds. There's a lot of hearsay about which one had an automatic. The automatic and a 454 were in the rollover car that was never used in two-lane, but eventually used in American Graffiti.
Okay, to roll over. The crash car had a 454 automatic.
454 automatic.
Okay, so so then they put a tunnel ram dual quad on it for two-lane Blacktop, and we're going to go out and we want to buy all of the things that were a part of two-lane blacktop that we can have on display. Because basically, our customer and the guys who had it in Texas, they were American Graffiti all the way. It's a more famous movie, all of that. So anyway, for those reasons, I guess it's going to be American Graffiti.
It's going to be American Graffiti, but we're going to try and get as many of the historical things that are either missing or taken off it and try and keep them with the car.
Yeah, and then it helps the display. So when this is literally in a museum setting, I would even like to have a pair of fiberglass doors for it, and then we will, like I said, have the dual quad set up and all those things. But this car literally still has the engine that Richard Ruth put in this car for two-lane blacktop. It has its axle.
It has its Pontiac. Actually,
Yep.
as he said, it's an Oldsmobile because it's slightly narrower than a Pontiac,
Oh,
which I
okay.
did not know.
Oh, interesting.
So he used an Oldsmobile, not a Pontiac axle under this. And
okay.
It still has Pontiac lug pattern. He never changed anything. It was Chevy up front with the Earhart discs and Pontiac out back.
In the back, right. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to take a look at, unless I'm forgetting some general history, which we still need as much of it as we can get. It has been pretty well researched, but
It has, but there's always something new.
there's always somebody that knows something or has a part or something like that. There's question on the tilt front end in two-lane blacktop. This filler panel piece was separate. We don't know for sure on American Graffiti, but we might buy a whole nother front clip for it, maybe even. And the scoop is not exactly how it was in the movie as well.
Not the right size.
Right. So then one thing that we've been learning is that this car stayed pretty much untouched in the movies until sometime in the 90s.
Well, we'll just say mid-90s. It stayed in its American Graffiti form up till the mid-90s.
Wow.
And then it started to get customized, and it lost all of its real history for the most part. It's right. It still retains its full driveline and its headers. It's Rich Ruth headers, thankfully, but it got a sliding tilt front end with hydraulics and power windows, and they took the headliner and the roll bar out of it, and they tried to put a back seat in it. So, unfortunately, a lot of its movie history got lost in that.
Right. So that is really crazy. It's easy in 2024 to say, why would somebody do such a crazy thing? And all of the owners up until that point did retain the history, looking at it as a historical piece that should be retained. But, you know, when a guy owns a car, he can do anything he wants to with it, like put an alarm system in it, painted a bunch of stuff red, but whatever, we're not, you know, we're here to make it back to where our customer wants it, and that's what we're going to do. It is a bit of a head scratcher, but you could have gotten any 55 Chevy in the world
to do that too,
right.
to do this too, but
the cool thing that Delmer did, the guy that owned it before my customer here, is he sent it straight back to Richard Ruth.
Amazing.
And so he corrected the roll bar. The firewall literally had
a brass firewall installed in it.
Polished brass.
Yeah.
So Richard repaired that right to how it would have been.
He repaired the firewall. He fixed the front end because, like I said, it had been on a hydraulic. It moved forward and then flipped open. So all of that's now gone.
Right.
But he fixed that. He fixed one of the headers had been damaged, and he repaired the header.
Okay.
So it still has its headers, but with a little bit of his own repair work on it.
Okay, that's super awesome that we have that. I don't know what would have happened to it, but we have obtained what we believe is a really good steering wheel.
Yeah.
Somewhere for this car, the steering wheel exists.
That exists. The rear wheels that were in two-lane blacktop.
Yes.
Stayed in the trunk of this car with all of its sales up until the mid-90s, and then they were sold at a Maryland swap meet.
So literally, if you know both movies and you're watching American Graffiti, all of those scenes, the slicks from two-lane blacktop were in the trunk.
The Race Masters and the 200Ss are still in the
sitting
trunk of the
there,
car.
And that's how the guy, the as people were buying the car, that's how it got. And for that to be lost is really amazing too.
Really a shame.
Even the first guy had Harrison Ford's hat.
Right, the hat still came with the car.
Yeah, and there was one other thing, I forget what they
Trinkety thing, yes. But,
yeah, but still it was, that unfortunately was lost. But most of it's here, and we have it, and
we're going to do it justice.
That's right. All right, so here's a looking under the hood here. Like Jeff mentioned, that's the original headers all the way back to 2-lane Blacktop. And a lot of this stuff was touched. They had put dual quad setup tunnel ram back on it, but amazingly, thanks to Walt Bailey, the intake and the carburetor and a handful of other things. What are some of the other things that he rescued?
So when the car was being customized, it lost its induction, which it's now back on it. Walt Bailey went to the body shop and scavenged everything they were throwing away, and that included this intake and carburetor.
Wow.
The coilovers, these are not the right coil shocks. We have them, Walt saved them.
So literally, this guy, in his research and in love for the movie, he finds out
the car's nearby.
Yeah, he goes and visits the guy or whoever, and then goes back to the shop that did the work and says,
What's
where
going
are all
on?
the parts you took off of here? And literally saved them.
Yep.
That's incredible.
And then gave them back to the car when
Delmer.
When Delmer
had
got it. Yep.
And that's truly amazing.
He truly cared about it.
Yeah, that
Truly
is
cared about
really definitely going to be linked.
But in all of that is where we lost the 200Ss and the M&H Race Masters.
Right.
It's where we lost all the chrome reverses on the car. These are not its original chrome reverses from American Graffiti.
Right. And for sure, what size and tires are on the car in American Graffiti are a little tough to tell. I mean, we can kind of tell the what type. These look sort of like it.
They're okay fake.
Yeah.
We've learned they have to be 15s in order to clear the Earhart disc brakes.
Okay.
14s will not clear them. We just assumed it had 14-inch wheels, like all the other American Graffiti cars likely have, but maybe they don't. Maybe they're all 15-inch Sears wheels.
So I guess the worst case scenario, we take some stock wheels and make our own 15-inch chrome reverse from scratch.
Right, get Chevy centers.
Have a wheel company take them apart and chrome plate them and weld them back together. If somebody had some 15-inch chrome reverse wheels, we would definitely be interested in buying them. But you can see some of the burgundy colored things here, the radiator, which might be its radiator. It'd be impossible to know. But the mounts are
The mounts are modern.
crazy.
They're part of that whole hydraulic front end system.
The polished alternator wouldn't have been there. We think it would have been exactly like 2-lane Blacktop with the addition of the L88 intake and carburetor, versus 2-lane Blacktop, and probably didn't change the horsepower that much.
No.
So still in American Graffiti, it would have easily, I would think, outrun the 32 Ford in the movie.
Easily.
But so the engine compartment needs a lot of work, but there's a lot of good there as well. I guess that Richard Ruth had his own design for the solid axle.
Yes.
A lot of these will sit
Very
much
high.
higher. Yeah.
Yes.
So he had this one that he made that it, set the car a little bit lower. And but the configuration of all this, these probably, I don't know if these were chromed. Do you know if any of this stuff was chromed or if this happened in the 90s?
No, it was all pretty plain. It had chrome valve covers, but it had white headers.
Yeah.
And everything else underneath it. The coilovers, I believe, were chrome because they came that way.
Okay, yeah.
But no, it was pretty sedate. It wasn't polished up. It wasn't livened. It was just a crate motor that they stuffed in here.
So it was exactly like it was portrayed in 2-lane Blacktop as what a guy would build if he was going to have a really, really fast
serious race car. And again,
car.
that's what Rich Ruth was building for himself.
Right.
But kids got in the way.
Right, right, that happens. So yeah, it was a very authentic, real piece.
It's a very authentic car.
Definitely not just a movie prop.
No, it has Earhart disc brakes all the way around. Who had that in 1970?
Right, exactly.
That's serious.
Yeah, that
and
is
on
pretty
that, we're needing calipers. If anybody out there is a good Earhart, knowledgeable
brake.
kind of guy, we need some information on these things.
Right.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, yeah. I mean, the Y-end intake manifold doesn't look like it'll be too tough to get. Not that it'll ever go back on the car, but...
No, but it'd be nice to have it. But we have to have brakes.
Right. So we have come up with a fan, we believe.
A
the
fan.
right fan.
We got the green fiberglass fan. We got the steering wheel.
The spacer between the water pump and the fan looks twice as long as the one that
we've
we
acquired.
have. So I don't know if they use two of them and you just can't see the seam, or if there is a really deep one.
Right, you could just buy whatever you needed. I would imagine you could just buy whatever you needed. But
So if there's some day two guys out there that know some of that stuff.
know what we're looking for, hit us up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Please reach out. But it's really cool. The radiator hoses were just totally the corrugated looking.
Corrugated, just universal.
Cheap as you can get. Or just, I guess, generic,
Just generic, just to make it fit.
Yeah. No, so that's pretty exciting. That's kind of the engine compartment piece of this. Certainly a lot of work. I guess this engine's been gone through one time. I believe it's 30 over now, is what they were saying. And they polished the heads. So we're going to totally disassemble the heads, and we're going to take them back to looking like they're never been messed with. Yeah, cast if we can.
But I believe those are its heads.
Yeah, that's what everybody says. All of the history says that this engine's never left this car since it was built. So that's really cool. I guess you could kind of say it's numbers matching. It's a bit of a stretch. But let's have a look inside here. And the one thing I've been hearing is that Delmer was really proud of discovering this. So in two-lane Blacktop, of course, it had bucket seats, racing seats, right?
Yeah.
So then in American Graffiti, it had a bench seat back in it, but it didn't have a split in it.
It's a four-door front seat.
Okay, so no, you wouldn't need to move the seat forward in a four-door. You just get in the back.
Yep.
So what else did they switch between the two movies on the inside?
Very little, actually. Seats and shifter, as much as I can tell. It retained its steering wheel. It still had the exact same dash in it, which is completely different now. It used the carpet, the headliner, the roll bar, the door panels. I think every single item except a tack. They, for some reason, removed the sun tack for American Graffiti.
Okay.
But other than that, I do believe they're identical inside.
So they use the same door panels, but they changed the doors.
Exactly, yes.
So they put steel doors on the car for, we don't know exactly why, just ease?
They wanted actual windows, so they could roll up, roll down.
Okay.
So it had a functioning door, per se.
All right.
But they reused the door panels straight from the fiberglass onto the metal doors.
Wow, nice job he did making the fiberglass doors.
Yeah.
So the holes in the dash, is that something that came afterwards, or was that?
So when Rich built it, it had no gauges in the dash, had a gauge panel under here and a sun tack up here. Gotcha. When it was customized, they took the original gloss black, textured black, gloss black dash, put Bel Air trim on it, and then cut holes for gauges in it along with this paint. Nice. Changing the column, changing the steering wheel.
Wow. Can you imagine drilling a hole that size in a piece of American history. Americana? But they may not have been looking at it like that in the 90s, but I mean, we were restoring cars in the 90s.
We were restoring cars in the 90s.
So, I don't know, that's a head scratcher, but I guess a side note, what I'm seeing is, other than it's just ugly to look at, this car is not a rusty car, right? Originally bought out of the paper in California, I guess. Is that right?
Rich already owned this one. He already owned this one. Right, but it's a 15-year-old car basically in 1970 in Southern California.
Right.
It doesn't know what rot is, and since that point, it's only had a good life basically. It's never sat outside. So it really is a dry, solid car in all those respects.
So the one thing that's pretty cool is that we haven't received it yet, but we believe on really, really good authority that we're going to get to have a copy of the contract from the movie studio that includes the VIN number of this car on it, and all of them that they used actually. So one of our other customers has the T-Bird from American Graffiti, which they just rented for the movie. They didn't always own these cars. This one they owned, that one they rented. And so then of course there's the 58 Chevy in the movie. And so, you know, that would probably, when that's all restored now too. So we're really looking forward to that, you know, one day reunion with all these cars, yeah. But so, I mean, so the work we have to do on the inside would be a stock restoration of the dash. Mm-hmm. And so we're gonna have to put a different headliner in it for the movie. And then there's a big tonneau cover here.
Right, American Graffiti had a tonneau cover on it. And fortunately, the two garnish moldings inside still have their snap holes.
Right.
So we know, I mean, you can see it in the movie and pictures that they're in the right location, and now we can replicate that and put that all in the right places, thankfully.
So then if you can, I don't know if this will get picked up by the camera, but at one time, the, you know, the lost years of this car's ownership, they were put a back seat in it.
They were trying to put a back seat in it.
And so it was all cut out for two-lane blacktop. And then the tonneau cover covered it all up for American Graffiti, but all the package tray and all of this stuff was gone. So the slicks went clear up in there.
Right. Lori Bird sat in the back. The girl sat right here. The slicks were here, up onto the axle hump.
Right.
It was a clean shot through the car.
So, and then it wouldn't have had those two batteries there.
Nope.
That's probably needed two batteries maybe to run the car alarm and the power windows and all that. I don't know.
Tilt front end. And
anyway, but so the battery would have been off over to the one side.
Yep.
And then the...
they had a Suedo, a fake filler cap. When they lift the trunk lid off, they go to fill it up. That's where this was right here.
And it was like a Honda motorcycle lid or a cap or something.
Okay.
Which we'll put back in there.
No, we'll put that back in there. It was non-functioning, always was. It always used the quarter panel gas tank like it would have from the factory, but
yeah, that was a prop.
That was a prop. As you can see, if you watch movies carefully, you'll see that we lost all of our hood pin tie downs down here. We still have our corner ones.
Yep.
But we lost our center one.
So that'll need to be replicated. And so then the deck lid, you talked about, it's the deck lid, but it's been
altered.
worked.
I do believe this is its original deck lid because it has all the right hood pin holes. If you look at it just right, you can see all the shrink marks where the hood pins were and where the handles were, which were just drawer pull knobs, just a little round single drawer pull knob right there that would be hidden by the bumper guard so they can grab it and pull it up. But it has all of its holes, but it has an underside, which it's not supposed to. So I think what they did, and this is my assumption, is they used a stock deck lid, made a form of the underbracing, and then molded it to this so they could put trunk hinges in it. Mm. So that's why the deck lid has an underside, and in the movie you'll see that it's just nothing but a thin skin of fiberglass.
Very flimsy.
Very flimsy, very light.
Weighs nothing.
Yeah.
Now it's probably almost as heavy as a stock deck lid.
As a stock deck lid.
Yeah.
So we'll be fixing that. We'll take this backside off of it, and hopefully it'll be obvious that this was seamed and added to.
So another cool thing, I think, at this time that we will do is, so when this car was in American Graffiti, of course, everyone that's familiar would know that the car was primer and two-lane blacktop. Mm-hmm. So they literally just scuffed this whole car down and painted it black.
No masking of the jams.
Right, with the doors, of course, had been changed, so they needed to be painted anyway. So in what would that be, a 1980s
roughly
magazine article?
Yeah, an early magazine article.
Yep, pretty cool, a lot of really good pictures. They show it with the trunk lid off, and this is all primer in here still.
Right, all of the jam work is still primered with black overspray just falling into it.
Right, so we will do that because that would be authentic to how it sat in American Graffiti, which is the whole point of it. So now, and I'll welcome any opinions, and we've not even really talked about this, but in my opinion, and I think the customer's opinion, we will, you know, block this car and prep it like we would one of our restorations. I don't really see a point in leaving it wavy. It would have probably been kind of rough.
It would have been wavy, but
now it's going to be on display in a museum.
I don't want a wavy car.
No, we might as well make it nice and straight. We're not going to hurt the history of it or anything like that. And we're also, that also kind of brings us around to like some of this stuff here. And the
where do you stop?
Right.
What do you fix and what don't you?
Do we pretend like it's a stock 150 restoration? We don't even know what color this car was new, do we? Have you ever looked at?
No. Richard Ruth had pictures of it fresh and it was blue, but
Okay.
I think that was just his choice. It was powder blue with gray primered panels everywhere.
That's right, yeah.
And the movie company didn't care for that. They wanted it to look ugly.
Right.
And so they said, we want it primered with lots of streaks on it. And so they spent 2 days or something getting artists to do that job. And Rich Ruth was horrified by it because he said if they were out racing, they wouldn't give a damn about it being gray primer. So,
right. So, I mean, we have all kinds of things to think about, and it really never ends, right? I mean,
never ends.
So when we restore a car, of course, we go over the top to make it perfect. I think we definitely won't do that here.
No.
It would look weird.
No. Well, like one thing that we have to leave is James Taylor dropped the clutch at 6,500 or something.
Right.
And in reverse and blew the U-joint, the rear U-joint through the floor. Well, that patch is still there. Well, we can't take that out, can we? No, that has to stay.
Yeah, because that's an interesting
That's part of the car's history.
Car.
That's part of the movie car history part.
Right.
So that has to stay.
So, and then, I mean, I don't know, this is maybe all the...
This is all part of their package tray. And
second...
Right, so that's all going. All this hokey package tray stuff under here will be gone. And it'll have a tonneau cover on it. And when you lift the deck lid, you'll be able to see all the way to the back of the front seat, just like you would have in the movie. And
I think that as far as the whole undercarriage of the car goes, I think we do the frame nice.
Yeah.
And the floor pan of the car like an authentic restoration of a 55 Chevy.
Right. If we find something that's historical to it, we'll leave it. If it's something that's just butcher work and shouldn't be there, that's getting fixed.
Yeah. But it ought to, you know, probably be a red oxide. I mean, we'll find all that probably when we start
digging into it
and stuff like that. But we're putting this out there for, you know, all the movie enthusiasts and car enthusiasts to see, and we want some input on it. It would be great to bring everyone along, like I said, for the ride of this whole entire journey on this car, and get people involved in it with their opinions and stuff like that. So we don't have to accept them, but you never know when someone has a really good idea, you know.
Or has our 200 S's.
Right, exactly. or they're the guy that bought the hat.
Where's the hat? We'd like to see the hat.
Right, someone had that and sold it online somehow. Some auction. It was somehow auctioned off. So someone has it.
That would be amazing to get.
Obviously didn't get thrown away.
Nope.
You know, so it's out there somewhere. It'd be fun to have it back with the car. But I don't know, what else do you think that we might, what was the back glass? Was it plexiglass?
Oh, so in two-lane Blacktop, all the glass except for the windshield was plexiglass. And it was screwed directly to the window channel. On the back glass, it was from the outside, and on the side glasses, it was from the inside. So when we pull this window and the two sides, we ought to find all the holes where they just tech screwed it in place.
Okay.
Or Rich Ruth did.
And so did they go all the way back to glass in American Graffiti?
American Graffiti, it's all glassy. I'm not sure about quarters, but I can't imagine that it's going to have garnish moldings then, and it's going to have a tonneau. So I would imagine it would have to have glass in it.
Okay.
Because the plexiglass would screw that whole system up.
It might.
But that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, it almost seemed like Walt said something about plexiglass here, but I don't know. Easy to find out. He'll know. And it's so wonderful to have someone who spent, what, years, decades?
Yes. Yeah.
as-
And Walt restored the other car to the two-lane blacktop theme.
Right,
So
an authentic car.
he's incredibly knowledgeable on these cars.
What a fun hobby
What a fun hobby.
that we get to now reap the benefits of all of his research over the years. So, you know, just on a side note and a philosophy thing, we'll take the engine back out of this car and dyno it, try to make it look authentic to how it would have looked. There was no engine shot ever in American Graffiti.
Nope.
And interesting little side note, on the die-cast cars they made, they put a 409 in it. Right, because it was 1962, right?
Right, there is no rat Chevy.
Yeah, there was no 427. So kind of interesting, but that's probably why they didn't open the hood, because that wouldn't have been correct. But we'll dyno that engine and, you know, get it all set up to where it runs as good as possible. I mean, I'd be good if this was still capable of a high 10-second, low 11-second.
I don't see why not.
Not that we're going to do that with it, but I'm a believer in having stuff function and being authentic to how it was at the time. That's restoration. I mean, that's the definition of it, right?
Yep.
So anyway, I don't know if you don't have anything else to add. We could, you know, basically wrap this up. One of the most exciting projects we've had, and we've got some exciting ones, but this is certainly the most famous one, I would say.
This is pretty good.
Absolutely. Thrilled to have
I've
it.
never had friends asking to come by to see a car at the shop.
Okay.
But this one, I keep getting calls. Can we come by and look at that? So it's
I-
loved.
Yeah. No, I have had quite a lot of people too, and a lot of people want to sit in it. So they just want to be a part of it. They want to touch it, take my picture sitting
The
in.
number of people at McCacken that wanted to sit in it and were just scared of it. And I would just yell at them, go sit in it. Go
Right.
enjoy that.
And
you
that's-
can't hurt it.
And that's why it was so cool to get it out before restoration. You know, so you can touch it and roll around in it. And
Do anything you want to. You
well,
can't
yeah,
hurt it
whatever.
right now.
And we're not overly fussy and hands off even when the thing's done. But of course, when it's all done, it will, you know, you'd be limited, you know. Yeah, your kid can sit in there if he's clean and we'll, you know, place him in there. But probably won't give a lot of rides, I suppose, when it's all done. But anyway, thanks for watching. We appreciate it. We're looking to hear from some folks out there that might have some parts or information or anything like that.
Thanks again. So there's been lots of confusion on these cars as to which one's which, what engines they each had, things like that. And now that this car is being restored, all this information is going to come out anyways, and it's going to be very common knowledge, but it hasn't been in the past. So a quick synopsis of which car is which is they made 3 cars for the movie, the first movie, 2-lane Blacktop. They never used the rollover car. It was a 454 automatic. Car number 2, which was the camera car, which would have been this car, which is now this car, was sold by the studios pretty quickly after the movie, and it went through a string of owners, and it's the car that Walt Bailey found and restored to absolute perfection. This car is car number 1. Car number 1 is the 427 L88 4-speed that was used for all the exterior scenes, for all the race scenes, anything that was impressive, let's put it that way. So car number 2 gave us a lot of good interior shots because both cars were built identically. So we now have lots of good interior shots to go off of because of that. Any junkies out there should probably get the 2-lane Blacktop book. It is full of wonderful pictures and shows all kinds of things you can't even imagine. The histories these cars have had, the owners that car number 2 has had. It's really amazing what these cars have gone through.